you mentioned something in the break before we came on that this could be Indiana's best draft ever. Most of us have just been thinking about Jamar Johnson and Whop Phillier, but they've got a couple other guys that have a shot.
Yeah, you look at, Jamar Johnson seems to be the lock. Jerome Johnson, the defensive lineman, could be somewhere in the mix too. And Indiana hasn't had 4 players selected in the NFL draft since 1988. And so you put those 2 guys in there. I've seen some 6th or 7th round projections for Harry Kreider, the offensive lineman. And then, as you mentioned, if you throw Whop Phillier and Stevie Scott in the latest projections from CBS, those guys were both undrafted free agents. But in the 7th round, anything can happen. So if one of those guys wiggles in, Indiana has had 3 draft picks in the same draft a couple times in the last 2 or 3 decades. But if they get to 4, this will be the best one in over 30 years. And what another notch under Tom Allen's belt to say, hey, you can come here, get developed, and go to the NFL. I know we've talked about on this show for a year or 2 now about how Indiana is no longer just a place to go play football. You can go play football, contend now for Big Ten championships, and then go to the NFL draft. So it's going to be interesting to see. We won't probably see a lot of those names until that Saturday, until day 3 of the NFL draft. But that's just something for Indiana fans to keep an eye on.
Yeah, I don't think they get to 4. Not being negative, I just don't.
Right.
Stevie Scott is the one. Running backs are always a dime a dozen in the NFL, and he just I don't see him being signed, to be honest with you. He just has not done it for me. But who knows? Maybe there's somebody that has this need, and it's more about what they need. But we'll see. But these drafts, this is going next year. Probably going to definitely see at least 4 guys drafted, if not more. And then their 4th, I don't see this not being a trend
right
with Indiana. It goes back to I've talked about this 3 or 4 times. I've got this chart on Indiana's recruiting that you can see how it just keeps moving over 20 years. You can literally look at it, and it's not zigzagging. It just is moving over. Everything is moving over higher. The draft picks are going to move over. The star ratings average moving higher. Everything is going to continue to go up for Indiana football. This is not a flash in the pan. He didn't have some big talent come in and boom, they had this great quarterback and this great. No, this is from the ground swell up. He's done this without the elite talent. They've created developed talent. If you do that developing talent, then the elite talent starts to come. That is how, I'm not going to call it elite programs, but that's how great programs are built. I'm not talking about Ohio State or Clemson, but the rest of these teams that are right there, that's where Indiana is and has to fight to stay.
I think what you basically described to me is a program like an Iowa or a Wisconsin, teams that are continually getting to bowl games. They're averaging 8 to 9 wins per season. They're constantly in contention for their division. And I think Indiana can do that. And what you see from those programs is, Iowa or Wisconsin, they'll get a 5-star player maybe once every 2 or 3 years. They don't get a ton of them. They get a couple 4-star guys. And if you start to see that at Indiana, where you get a 5-star guy here and there, and then you get 5 or 6 4-star guys in every recruiting class, you're going to continue to build that depth. One of the issues with Indiana in the past has been they've had enough talent on the starting line, but the problem is depth. So when somebody gets injured or you have to put in rotational players, that's where other teams have been able to take advantage. And Tom Allen's done a great job of developing that kind of depth. And I think that they can. I think Indiana can be an Iowa or a Wisconsin. They're not going to win 10 or 11 games every single season, but why can't you get to a bowl game? Why can't you compete in the Big Ten East every year? And I think it's the chicken and the egg, right? I think Matt Taylor or somebody talked about that last week. You start to get the talent, you'll start to see more wins. And if you start to see more wins, you're going to start to get even more talent.
You get the wins, you start to get more talent. You get more talent, you get more wins. Exactly. Because they right now they're using developed talent. Developed talent gets you wins, then you get elite talent and developed talent. Then that brings more wins. Alan hitting us up on the YouTube, and you can do that too. Just find us, Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Reach out and sign up there so you don't miss an episode. Toggle the notifications and I'll send it to you. He asked us thoughts on the Kramer kid. from Northern Illinois, defensive tackle, who's transferring in.
I mean, I honestly wish I would have known more. I did, because of everything that happened with the pandemic last year. I didn't see much of him play. So, but I mean, if this is a kid who has starting experience, to me, it doesn't matter so much, especially at a place like Indiana where you played.
It doesn't matter where. I don't think it matters. I don't care what school it is where you played. If they're taking you, there's a reason.
Well, there's a reason, but also Tom Allen, we've noted he has an ability to develop talent. So there's no question in my mind, if he has that experience along the starting line or somewhere along the road, then he's going to be just fine. He'll fit into that defense without much of an issue. I promise you that.
Yeah, I'm trying to find. I remember was that the kid that I was looking at yesterday that was transferred. And there's so much keeping up with right now with this stupid transfer portal, basketball, and then football, and because there's not as many that's not happening as much on football, which it should be, because you've got 125 kids over there as opposed to 13. But we've been focused on this basketball because it's been so hot and heavy. I'll try to pull that up, but Alan, but great question. Thank you for it. And thanks for following along. Tim points out that there are 5 quarterbacks going in the top 10. Well, that's not unusual. Those are the guys. But it does amaze me though. Teams' needs are teams' needs. And I don't care how good you are. If they need a left side defensive tackle, and the quarterbacks are there, this team is going to take a left side defensive tackle. Yep. If they need an edge rusher, and we're going to talk about that stuff with Matt Taylor today, like what do they need? How the thought process and all that stuff goes into it, and how the football programs, the college, do you develop relationships with kids that come there and all that type of thing? Let's see. Viper hitting us up. Is it football season yet? Man, we're talking about it. So that's a great point, but how often have you heard us or anyone talking about Indiana football in, is it May yet? April.
Almost May.
Today, happy birthday. Happy heavenly birthday, Mom. Today would have been her birthday. Happy April 29th. So, yeah, it's the fact that we're thinking fervently about football season, and I've been thinking about it for a while. I am thinking about that. I don't want to make the drive, but I am going to make the drive. I cannot wait to go to Iowa City. The first thing, it won't be the first thing, but the first level of importance is I want to see the kids wave and everyone wave. Yeah. That is just, I'll probably get goosebumps talking about it. I mean, that's the greatest thing going on in sports, to me, and all of sports. I love it. And to be able to hopefully see that and be a part of that would be, like I said, that gives me goosebumps thinking about it. But that game is huge, gigantic. That is the start of the season. It's a Big Ten game. It's on the road. It's the Gary Barta Bowl. There's so much. Yeah. But just forget about all that crap and get back to the football. They have to win that game, even though to me, you have to win that game and set the tone. We can't have all this talk and blow them up and talk about them challenging Ohio State. Uh-huh. You have to go to Iowa City and win that game. You've got to show you are different. You're here, and this. And I know people are going to say, "Well, they did this last year." Nope, this is this year. This is this year. You've got to do this every year. That's what these contenders do. But you've got to go out and do something now. This next level thing, and going to Iowa and beating Iowa is that thing, because you need that to start this year. Because Indiana, to be a top team, you got to have that win, because you've got Cincinnati coming in 2 games later. If you get those 2 wins under your belt, you are automatically a top 10 team that is going to be hard to bump out of the top 25 the rest of the season.